You are now watching Believe. Do you believe?
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Believe in Bears. This is the Week 1 and season preview for what is going to be an exciting Chicago Bears season. Thank you so much for watching us on YouTube. Thanks so much for listening to us on Sirius XM, and we have a great episode coming up in about 30 seconds. But first, we got to talk about our presenting sponsor. It's BetOnline.ag, and look, BetOnline, it is the fastest and easiest way to wager on all your favorite sports, contests, and events with first-to-market odds and lines. Find reviews and news for every league, including Major League Baseball, this little thing called, I don't know, the NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sports, esports, and even golf. BetOnline continues to be the #1 top online resource for all your sports information, from live in-game betting, props, and even futures. So what are you waiting for? Head to BetOnline today and use your mobile device to sign up. You will get a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit only when you use promo code BELIEVE50, BLEAV50. That is only at BetOnline, where the game starts. Ladies and gentlemen, it is time to start a brand new era in Chicago Bears football. We are a season preview, a Week 1 preview right here on Believe in Bears. Let's bring in my co-host. He is a man who's wearing many hats. Maybe you can talk about them a little bit as we move throughout the show, move throughout this season. But right now, the only thing that really matters right now is he is former Bears defensive end. He is my co-host, my friend, and also the Northwestern Wildcats are 1-0 right now. It is Corey Wootton. What's up, Corey?
What's going on, man? Yeah, the Cats are 1-0. I had the big win over in Dublin. Man, that was huge against Nebraska. I predicted it, man. I said it. You know, when Carmen was on the show, I said they were going to get the dub. So it's always good when Northwestern goes 1-0. It looks like they have the quarterback situation figured out. And usually when that happens, they usually have a successful season. So I'm looking for them to go bowling, maybe a really good bowl this year, and maybe compete for a Big Ten title.
And Corey, hopefully after Week 1, the Chicago Bears will be 1-0 too as well. And that's what we're here to do today. We are going to do part one. We're going to talk about a season preview, breaking down what we like and our aspirations and expectations for this season. And also stick around for the second half, because we're going to reveal Corey's keys of how the Bears are going to hopefully take down the San Francisco 49ers in Week 1. But Corey, let's just start here, because I feel like that this is the first day of the rest of our Bears' lives. Now, look, this might not affect the win total heading into the season. There's going to be some ups and downs and some bumps in the road. But look, Corey, you know, a lot of exciting things are happening around this franchise right now. You know, they just announced a plan to possibly build this incredibly immaculate stadium in Arlington Heights. We have Ted Phillips, after 40 years, finally retiring. There's going to be a new team president of the Chicago Bears by early 2023. We have, of course, general manager Ryan Poles, Matt Eberflus in their first year, Justin Fields on offense, and, of course, 77 players on the active roster of Ryan Pace and Matt Nagy last year. Now only 17 remain. I'm going to do it again. It's like a Squid Game. It's like a Squid Game situation in Chicago. Who will survive? But, Corey, you know, it's just a really exciting time, I think, to be a Bears fan, even if this year on the field might not yield the results that we want. Heading into next year with a high draft pick, cap space, Justin Fields on the move, there's a lot to like, right? There's a lot to be excited.
There is a lot to be excited for. A lot of changes coming up. You know, you talked about possibly that new stadium in Arlington Heights. Ted Phillips, after 30 years, under the Bears regime. But I'm most excited about what Ryan Poles has done in his first year. He's done a lot with a little. You talk about the draft picks, right? He's got the left tackle of the future, it looks like, with Braxton Jones. He's athletic. He has all the tools. And then you look at the defensive side of the ball. Kyler Gordon, day one starter. Jaquan Brisker, day one starter. Old school, in the box type of safety. Hits you in the face, can cover, can do it all, is a leader. His leadership qualities are what separates him from being such a young guy. Usually guys like that, just taking things in or whatever, but he's on the field calling stuff out. He's that leader early on. That's what you love to see. You were saying trust the plan of Ryan Poles, and everybody's kind of like, well, what about the left tackle situation? I was hard on him because of Bernard Ryman from Central Michigan, who went to the Colts. And I was like, but he seems to have figured it out. He's a good talent evaluator. He said he's always been good evaluating that offensive line. You look at shifting Tevin Jenkins into the right guard as well, and he's nasty in there, right? We were talking about, is he even going to be able to find a spot? And we saw him just continue to improve at that right guard position. And he's going to be a day one starter with the Bears. So that's great to see, because that's a guy last year everybody was down upon. Oh, look at him at left tackle. He couldn't do this. He was never a left tackle in the first place. He shouldn't have been on that side. He should have been on the right side, whether it was tackle or guard. He's found his home at guard there. So, and I like what they've done in the offseason too, getting Al-Qadim Muhammad, was a first-year starter last year, really flashed, had 6 sacks, played the run extremely well. Travis Gibson last year had a great season. So I like those two with Robert Quinn, that 3-man rotation. Justin Jones in there. I feel like he hasn't even scratched the surface of what he can do at 3 technique. And then we claimed Armon Watts as well. So I really like what they're doing. And also they claimed Amir Smith-Marset, the talented wide receiver. And I'm excited to see how that could potentially, how he develops in there, because I watched him in college, a really talented guy, big body, can run routes, had really good hands. So I'm excited to see what he can potentially do after developing him. So I've really been pleased. And what I love the most is Justin Fields. I think everybody has been excited with his progress, what he's done in the offseason, just the confidence, his aura out there, the last game especially. I mean, he put everything together, connecting the Cole Kmet we talked about. That's going to be a big connection this year, especially when it comes down to the red zone. But I think people are really high on the Bears right now, especially after seeing Justin Fields, right? And some people might say, well, they're not going to go undefeated, this, that, and the other, this. But I think they're going to be very competitive this year. I told you, I think that 9-8, I think that's what they're going to be. The schedule is not that tough. And if Justin Fields played like he did in that last game, and they run the football extremely well, they play great defense, they're not penalized like they were last year, I think they got a shot. And I always say this, the Tennessee Titans, you look at their recipe of success, and I think Justin Fields is way better than Ryan Tannehill. So that's what I use as the blueprint, right? Think about if you could have a better passer with a great running game. And I'm not saying Montgomery is Derrick Henry, right? Derrick Henry is one of the best, but Montgomery, don't sleep on him and Khalil Herbert. You know what I mean? A lot of people in fantasy have been picking David Montgomery pretty high because they know he's going to get the rock. So I'm excited for this year, man. I think they're going to surprise a lot of people. I think they're going to be in a lot of games. It's going to be a lot of tight. The games that they lose, I feel like it's going to be by a score. Right. I think it's going to be a lot of close losses at that. But I think they're going to surprise some people. If they could have a winning record in this first year in the polls era, where everybody's projecting them, I think it was 6 wins to have
down to 5.5. Down to 5.5,
okay.
Corey. Yeah.
So if they could do that, I think that would be a very successful season, man.
No, and look, I think I love all the points that you're making because, one, if we're in some football games in the fourth quarter and it comes down to a play here and a play there, that's a young football team learning through the fire of what it takes to win football games moving forward. So I really like that. Corey, you're onto something because I think, we'll talk about the offensive line. And, what I will say about the offensive line is I don't know if it is the best unit in the NFL or it's going to be the unit that's going to be with us the next 2 or 3 years. But I do like that they got some depth, right? The drop-off isn't steep. So if you lose a guy, it's not going to be that big of a difference when they're moving in and out. And that can kind of go across the entirety of this whole roster. And when you want to talk about we got to protect Justin Fields, you can do that with offensive line. That's the obvious one. The second one, though, is, Corey, the stuff that you're bringing up. You can protect Justin Fields with a great defense. Get some turnovers, some short fields. You can protect Justin Fields by playing a disciplined game. No more holding penalties. No 3rd and 17, right? No 2nd and 15. That's when a defensive player that pins his ears back and tries to knock down the quarterback as best you can. Exactly. Stay out of those situations. And my final point, and I want to get to X factors here, and I want to know, and this could be anyone. It could be a unit. It could be a player on the team that you're just kind of looking at, and you're saying, not to your prediction of who you think is going to ball out, but the guy that if he performs and he does what he needs to do, this season is going to go in the direction that you think it's going to. Because in my opinion, a lot of people are like, well, we lost a lot of names in the offseason. Khalil Mack, Allen Robinson, Akeem Hicks. Well, I'm telling you, Bears fans, this is an opportunity to watch a football team that wants to make names for themselves, right? I mean, we don't know a lot of these guys yet, and that's okay because we're about to learn about them. And look, if it doesn't work out, we got $120 million in the cap to change it next year. But let's give these guys a chance, the Al-Qadim Muhammads of the world, to become a household name, right? We've seen a guy like a Willie Young come into Chicago out of nowhere and then put up sack numbers, and everyone all of a sudden knows who Willie Young is. I'm sorry if I'm dating myself with that defensive line reference there, but you get what I'm saying. So, Corey, and this can be Justin Fields if you want. Is there an X factor? Is there a unit? Is there one area of this team that says, hey, if this goes right, we got a shot at winning some football games this year, what would that be for you?
Oh, I would say the biggest X factor for me is the offensive line, right? And I'm not going to say it's based on strictly how they perform, right? They're going to have to go out there and protect, but how Luke Getsy game plans to kind of suit their strengths or help them out in situations, right? And I look at like week one, right? We're going against a very talented defensive line, right?
Yeah.
Nick Bosa, Sampson, the other defensive end that came from the Rams, very talented guy. I feel like he has a scratch of service. Eric Armstead, right? Big guy, 6'7", 6'8", 300 pounds, talented pass rusher as well. So this is going to be a big test for this offensive line, and that's kind of been the biggest question mark I think everybody's had this offseason. So week one, how is Braxton Jones going to hold up against Nick Bosa? Because Chris Korosek, who's the defensive line coach for San Francisco, coached me in Detroit, and he's going to try to exploit that matchup all day. He's going to say, Nick Bosa is the best defensive end in the league, and I'm having him one-on-one against Braxton Jones as many times as I can. But how are the Bears going to combat that, right? Are we going to have chip help? Are we going to have Cole Kmet chip before he goes out for his route? Are we going to slide the protection? Are we going to help him out, right? And then you talk about inside as well. You know, how is Armstead going to fare, you know, against Tevin Jenkins? How will he play against him, right? It's going to be a good test, right? Tevin Jenkins is a big physical guy, but how is he going to hold up? You know, and then you look at Larry Borum potentially as well. So I think they're going to try to exploit those matchups. You know, Bosa is going to go back and forth on both of those guys. They're younger guys, inexperienced. So I think they're really going to try to exploit them, you know, with different games, you know,
I was
different
going to say,
pressures, etc.
Corey, real quick, a young offensive line like this, you know, isn't the game plan for San Francisco is just to try and confuse them pre-snap and make them think and make Justin check a lot and assign a lot and do all this kind of business before the ball's even hiked?
Yeah, I think they're going to try to do that. But I think it comes down to like this, right? You know, playing for that guy, Chris Korosek, the defensive line coach for San Francisco, they like to get home with 4 if they can, right? They just want to say, our 4 can beat your 5, right? That's what they're saying. So most of the time, they're going to try to rush with that front 4 because I think that's what generates most of the pressure. Then the games and different stunts will come off that. But I think early on, they're going to try to win, you know, the straight rushes, and then they're going to try to mix up some of those games. But, you know, it's going to be a great test because, you know, this will be one of the better fronts they go against all year. So it's be interesting to see how Getsy game plans, right? How are you going to do some screens, some draws, right? Get them up the field, get them going, they could club them by, you know, the tackles,
Yep.
you know, get some draws going, things like that. That's how you slow down the talented pass rush. Then they start getting frustrated, right? Oh, I'm not getting home. Justin Fields getting the ball out quick. And then all of a sudden you hit them, you know, with that big deep shot, you know, that hard play action, because they're already frustrated. Oh, they've been running the ball too much. They're getting the ball out quick, and then they're not rushing as hard. And then you hit them deep to Darnell Mooney. You know, things like that to try to frustrate that front. So I'm excited to see how they do. And I think Getsy's play calling will really be tested this first week, you know, and we're going to see kind of, you know, this blueprint of how the season will go, especially offensively. I think the first game is going to tell us a lot.
And my hope is, especially with this week 1, and it's going to be one of my keys coming up a little bit later, is the concept of, I think that if our defense comes out fired up and is flying around and maybe we have a nice, strong first drive, the crowd's super into it a little bit, that buys Luke Getsy some time, right, where he says, I don't need to force something that I don't need to. I can just run the ball. We can play great defense. We can just sort of hang back a little bit. And like you said, wait for those moments for Justin Fields to take those shots. You don't have to start pulling them out of the bag early second quarter. If you can hang in the game, keep it low scoring, that's great news for the Chicago Bears. A low-scoring game in week 1, right? So maybe to possibly be able to do that a little bit. Corey, it is time to move on. This is our 2nd annual award, and I'm calling this something called the Bobby Snacks Sacks Award. The Bobby Snacks Sacks Award is what I'm going to call it, because last year you said that Robert Quinn was not only going to have a bounce-back season, but you said Robert Quinn was going to have 13, 14 sacks last year. He ended up with 18.5. So surprise the world, Corey. Shock the world. Give us your Bobby Sacks Award of the year. What player is it going to be? Who's going to surprise Bears Nation?
I've been going back and forth on this for a while, and I'm gonna actually give it to two players. I'm gonna give you the dual split because I talked about how integral they are with the rotation, and I think it's gonna be Al-Qadim Muhammad and Travis Gibson. I think because them and Robert Quinn together, they're going to be rotating, keeping each other fresh, and they got a chance to potentially have three guys that have double digits. And people, oh, what do you think about it? Think about if you're actually able to stop the run and you're the defensive end, they're going to be primarily the defensive end away from Robert Quinn, right? Where everybody's going to be sliding protect. You know he's still going to get a sack, Robert Quinn, but they're going to benefit so much on being one-on-one, right? And a team that's going to be very disciplined, stopping the run, and then when it's time to pin your ears back. So those two, those are my Bobby Snacks award because I think they're going to be such an important part of that rotation. And if they can benefit, I think we might have three guys that potentially have double-digit sacks. I think we'll at least have two.
There's a lot to like about that, right? Number one, for an opposing offense, they're like, oh, young secondary, let's run some 7-step drops and let's see if we can take advantage of this, that. There's a little arrogance maybe going on. And then on top of that, too, a lot of that one-on-one coverage, you can rack up some sacks early on in the year. By week 6, then they're like, oh, well, maybe we need to put an extra dude on this dude. Maybe we need to do an extra chip help. So wait, real quick, you're saying 19.5 over-under. You're saying over for Gibson and Muhammad combined. 19.5 over.
I'm gonna say over 19 for both of them.
Yeah. Combined, because that's what's gonna take end of the day. All right, cool.
I like that.
Yeah, so let's rip some over-unders real quick. You got your win prediction out there. You're saying 9 wins. I'm gonna reveal my win prediction at the very end, but I just want to rip some over-unders here real quick. Brought to you by BetOnline.ag. And Corey, just give me your quick reaction here of some over-unders of what you think is going to happen here. So real quick, I got some fun ones for you. Justin Fields, over/under 3.5 rushing touchdowns.
For the whole year.
Whole year.
Over 100%.
Smash it, right?
He's easy to smash that. I mean, think about it. When he's on the red zone and he has some of those boots, some of those nakeds, where everybody is biting on that David Montgomery running game. And then all of a sudden, he's got that clear corner. He's got one-on-one on a defensive end. Good luck, Chuck. All right? No shot. He's over that.
He's going to have 2 1/2 this year. I'm calling it right now. He's going to have 2 1/2. You'll wait and see. Over/under 14.5 interceptions, Justin Fields.
I'm going to say under. I really like what he did this offseason. And I feel like his decision-making has been a lot better. And I think that's what Getsy is working on him with because – Getsy coached Aaron Rodgers, right? Aaron Rodgers is his own person by any means, but he's been a coach of his for years, and he sees how he approaches the game. So he's teaching him all the little tidbits that Aaron Rodgers does because he is one of the least intercepted quarterbacks in the league, I think, in NFL history. His touchdown interception ratio is unbelievable.
It's like 6 to
1 every
1.
year. Yeah, one game he had like 2, and everyone's like, "Oh my gosh, that's the end of the world," and he ends up with 6 for the year. It's unbelievable. So I think Getsy is really preaching to Justin Fields, hey, let's make these smart decisions. Let's maybe throw this one away, and let's get running, right? Because Aaron Rodgers always thrown better on the run, right? And we're going to see Justin Fields have a little of these throws on the run. So I think he'll have under 14. I think his decision-making is going to be a lot better. That clock in his head is going to go off because that's what they always did for the Packers, right? They had a clock all the time. They had an air horn. If he didn't get the ball at that time, they lost that series in practice. So I think he really has that in mind. He's going to go under 14.
All right, that kind of goes in tandem. I'm interested to hear what your point is. And by the way, these are basically, they're minus like 110. So it's basically even money that you're throwing down here on the over-under. This one's a good one for you. Passing yards, Justin Fields, 3,350.5. Over-under. That might be an under, Corey. That might be an under because we talked about this, man. Yeah. We can see a 4,000 all-purpose yard season from Justin Fields, but we don't think we're getting it all from his arm, right?
No, I say under on that. And Bears went, whoa. He doesn't have to light it up yards-wise, right? We said this is all about, being smart, right? Decision-making, being able to capitalize on the red zone, like a young Cam Newton, right? He would throw for 190 yards, have 2 passing touchdowns in the red zone, 1 rushing touchdown. Those are the kind of stats that we need from Justin Fields. It doesn't have to be 350, 400 like Aaron Rodgers, right? That's not what we need to do. We need to run the football, have him take care of the football, use his feet, be smart about his decision-making, and capitalize in that red zone. So I think it's under that.
I'm on board with you on this one. Let's keep moving on here because, honestly, some of these Bears lines, I'm just like, man, if you got some extra cash floating around, you need to smash this. David Montgomery, over-under rushing touchdowns, 7.5. Over is plus money at plus 110.
Over. They are going to pound the rock. Are you kidding me?
It's
like,
17 games, right? We didn't move it to 17 games. We didn't move it back to 12 like in 1982. I'm just checking because, my God.
I'm going to make a bold prediction. David Montgomery will be a top 5 rusher this year, if he can stay healthy. He will be a top 5 rusher in this league if he can stay healthy because they're going to give him the rock this year. That is what they are going to do. But if he can stay healthy, he is a workhorse out there. The games he was healthy last year, I mean, he averaged, 5 a pop? Come on, like the guy is a workhorse. And then we have Khalil Herbert as well that can spill him when he's tired. David Montgomery will be a top 5 back this year if he can stay healthy.
Yeah, he looked fantastic in that 3rd preseason game. He had that nice little cutback and then took it the other side of the field. And honestly, quietly, you don't see a lot of the running backs in preseason, Bears fans, but I kind of like what our room looks like right now, which we're going to get more into as the season moves along. So I'm just going to guess here you're going over on only 800.5 yards for David Montgomery this year. That's even money. For 800 rushing yards a year for David Montgomery, you're going over on that one. Let's move on. Yeah, let's move on here. Let's do what's a good one here? Another one I would smash. Over under Darnell Mooney touchdowns, 4.5. Over is minus 12. What? He had 4 last year in Matt Nagy's offense. What are we doing? What's happening, Corey?
He had 4 touchdowns. He had over 1,000 yards, right, in Matt Nagy's system. I mean, he is. Remember how we were going back and forth the whole time about we need a number 1. He is the number 1. He showed that in the preseason. He showed it in camp. He is a number 1, right? We were kind of like, oh, maybe he's not. Maybe no, he is number 1. His route running, his catching, his speed, his ability to get open. He is a number 1 receiver. He'll have over that easy. Like, come on, put some respect with a K on his name.
It's pretty crazy. And if you're feeling super spicy about it too, most receptions in the NFL, Darnell Mooney at 50-1. Not terrible too as well. I'm not shaking my head at that one. So final one, dude, Cole Kmet, your boy. I want to do one of each. So we're gonna rip through them. Over under 585.5 receiving yards, minus 115. Over under 585. The number he had last year. Again, Corey, same number.
Over. Like, come on, man. Like, Justin Fields didn't start throwing the ball until like the end of the season. So you're talking about from week 1, the connections they've had in offseason, preseason. He's going to have over that, man. And I told you, I think he's going to be around that 700 to 900 window. Like I told you, like Kyle Rudolph in his prime, the Pro Bowl. He's not a burner, right? He's a Notre Dame guy as well. He's kind of deceptive at times. Uses his body well. Great blocker, good hands. I think that's where his sky is. And he'll have for sure over. Like I said, that 700 to 900 window all day. But what's key is the touchdowns, and I think that's what you're getting at next, right?
3.5 minus 115 in Vegas. 3.5 over.
Go over. Oh my gosh! Come on, he's gonna go over that.
He'll have that by Halloween. I'm calling that 100%. Right now. He will have 4 by Halloween.
He might have that. He might have that in the first 4 games. To be honest with you, I mean, honestly, like that's what they're working on, right? Every good team utilizes that big body tight end in the red zone, right? Oh my, like Antonio Gates for years, even when he was past his prime, what did he do? He caught touchdowns in the red zone. He's going to use his body. Man, they're not putting the respect on these guys, man.
I'm getting you fired up, and it's really exciting. A couple other fun ones out there before we move on. Most sacks in the NFL for Robert Quinn is 30-1. Not my favorite odds in the world on that one. It's hard to go back to back, especially when he kind of does big year, small year.
Do you know who was he led the NFL in sacks last year, right?
He did, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And who was
Or
behind him? Do you know?
no, TJ Watt actually led the
Oh, TJ
NFL in
Watt.
sacks
TJ
last year.
Watt.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, so
He
yeah,
was
yeah.
right there,
I don't
18
know.
and a half, 20 and a half. I mean,
Okay.
we're talking.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So TJ Watt will probably win that if he had a knee injury, right? One of the weeks in preseason, but it's
He had
minor, right? It seems minor.
he had a helmet. He had a helmet to the left knee.
Okay.
Tomlin said that he would have finished the game if it was a regular season
Okay.
game. They held
So
him
he'll be
aside.
fine.
Yeah, my the other half of my household, the Steelers fan household, held their collective breath, but we've been able to exhale that I think TJ Watt's going to be okay.
Yeah.
Velus Jones Jr. Rookie of the Year, 75-1. I mean, I find that to be kind of interesting, just about the basis of if he gets a couple return TDs, a couple big plays here and there, and if all these rookies with all this crazy hype going on, even though, dude, I love Chris Olave and I love George Pickens. There is a world where you could possibly have Velus Jones in a Rookie of the Year conversation, but that's a little more
Yeah,
long range.
I'm gonna
A little
say
long
no.
range.
I'm gonna say no
Yeah.
on that. Like I honestly think George Pickens, if him and Trubisky get off hot, I think and I think we should have picked him. To be honest, like
Yeah.
we talked about it the whole time. Like I thought his talent outweighed all the risks, to get him in the second round. If you had a first rounder, I could see passing on him. But a second round, that dude, if he didn't get injured, he's a top 5 pick.
Yeah, passing on him at 48. I love that we have
That
Brisker,
was
but you
tough.
could have done Brisker at
Yeah.
38, and we'll see what happens with Kyler Gordon keeping an open mind. But yeah, dude, I went around town to all the radio shows, all the BLEAV shows, and just said George Pickens over and over and over again. And there he goes to my wife's team. So there's that
Exactly.
going on. Corey, it's time, man. It's time for Corey's keys to a Bears victory in Week 1, and then at the very end, we're going to predict whether the Bears will win or lose. We're going to do a game score prediction, and then we're going to get on out of here. So, Corey, toss me out your first key. What's it going to take for the Chicago Bears team to shock the world against the 49ers, who have a 6.5-point advantage on the road against the Bears in Week 1?
So it's got to be put the pressure on Trey Lance, right? He's kind of struggled this preseason, right? They signed Jimmy Garoppolo right out of nowhere, right? I'm done with Jimmy Garoppolo. I'm done with him, and then all of a sudden you sign him, right? I think that shows how confident you are in your young buck and Trey Lance. And you look at the opposite what Justin Fields has done. I think he's buying everybody's confidence, right? But Trey Lance has gone the other way. I mean, I think they're saying we really don't feel confident. And so for the Bears, right, how do you put the pressure on him, right? You stop that run, right? Really make him one-dimensional, right? Then you can pin your ears back. And I think that's what's going to be the X factor this year, what I talked about, stopping the run. Because last year, the year before, they could not stop the run. And that's why it's so impressive what Robert Quinn was able to do when they couldn't stop the run, So you put the pressure on Trey Lance, and I think he's going to crumble, honestly. He struggled in the preseason, but there's not that much pressure in there. And then I think Week 1, all the comparisons, Trey Lance, Justin Fields, they're going back and forth, both mobile quarterbacks, this, that, and the other. Both had okay seasons last year when they showed I think Justin Fields has the edge in this one. I think the Bears defense is going to get after him, and especially playing at home. Soldier Fields is going to get rocking. They're excited for the season. So put the pressure on Trey Lance, be able to get after him.
Corey, we take an off season off, and yet we're still on the same page. Because my first key, dude, my first key was called Speed versus Speed. And everyone's so excited about Trey Lance and his dual ability and all this other kinds of stuff that we're going to see from Trey Lance. Well, what is the one hallmark of this Bears defense that hopefully we're going to be able to hang our hat on this year? Is that they are young, they are fast, and they're going to play fast to the ball all the time. Now, there's two things, right? Shanahan's going to try and run some misdirection, and he's going to try and test, I think, the discipline of a young defense. And I think some weeks, to be fair, I think this Bears defense could struggle kind of out of nowhere just based on youth and experience and just have a bad week. I don't see it coming Week 1, Corey. I see them playing disciplined football. We've seen no penalties all preseason. That's a good hallmark for the beginning of the year at the very least. And I think Trey Lance is going to have a hard time doing Trey Lance stuff, and he might actually have to play quarterback, something that I'm not sure that he's fully adverse or ready to play yet at this point. And honestly, I think this Bears defense is a great matchup with Trey Lance. So I see it being very low scoring. I see it being maybe boring, maybe ugly in the first quarter, and our defense stepping up and getting excited, and our offense hopefully maybe finding its way a little bit. And I think that might be one of the keys to a victory. Corey, toss me another key. What's another key to a Bears win Week 1?
Get the running game going, right? We talked about how integral David Montgomery and Khalil Herbert are going to be to this team's success, and in particular, David Montgomery. I said he can be a top 5 back this year, right? They need to feed him the rock. He needs at least 30 touches a game, and I think that's a recipe for success, right? It's going to open up that passing game. It's going to get Justin Fields more comfortable, and it's going to take the pressure off the offensive line. You look at the talented defensive line they're going against. Nick Bosa is one of the best defensive ends in the game. Eric Armstead, he's super underrated D-tackle. I think he's one of the top guys out there. This is going to be a true test for them. But you take the pressure off by getting the run game. Then Justin Fields can run some boots, some sprint outs. You can get the play action going. We get some screens and draws with guys like Montgomery and Herbert, right? And really, really get that defensive line frustrated, right? Get them going up the field, club them by. And then all of a sudden, we, like I said, hit them with that hard play action. But I think David Montgomery getting the run game going will make everything easier for the offensive line, and in particular, Justin Fields.
My second key to the game is, look, it's week 1, so I get probably a free pass to be kind of like a meathead cliche ball of a Bears fan right now, but I'm going to call it offensive resiliency. That's what I want to see from the Chicago Bears week 1. I'll be honest that I have a feeling that at times it's not going to look pretty. We might not get off to a great start. We might have 3 or 4 drives that honestly net maybe 20, 25 yards, but I want to see offensive resiliency. That moment when Justin Fields and that offense keep coming. They keep working. Maybe they find a look that they like, execute in the right moment. In that third and fourth quarter, I think for this team, you said it earlier in the pod, Corey, we're going to be playing a lot of close games this year. It's going to be those moments in that third and fourth quarter. Can we stay offensively resilient to put those drives together and put points on the board? If we're settling for field goals in the first half, we be resilient to get that touchdown in the third and fourth quarter? That's what I call progress. That's what I call the maturation of Justin Fields. I want to see it week 1. That is going to be one of my keys to a Bears win. Corey, you got anything else? What do you think?
I like that. And when you were talking about field goals, right, that's something that we did a lot of last year, and that can't happen this year. When we get in the red zone, right, capitalizing on the red zone opportunities. No more 3rd and 2 tosses to the right or left. None of that, all right? We need to capitalize on the red zone, and we talked about it. Cole Kmet being the X factor in the red zone. That's how you get Justin Fields going. Use that big body. Get yourself open in that red zone, and then capitalize. No more field goals. We need touchdowns. We need a better completion percentage in that red zone. We need a better red zone percentage. So capitalizing on that, Cole Kmet's going to be the X factor in there. No more 3rd and 2 tosses. I'll tell you that.
Cole Kmet, 3.5 overall touchdowns for a 17-game season, available right now at betonline.ag. Just saying. Corey, any more keys? Are you ready for final score?
Yeah, my last key, right, is Darnell Mooney, right? Be the number 1, right? Everybody was doubting if you could be a true number 1. I think you've proven yourself as one of the rising stars in this league, right? People are still sleeping on you a little bit. You had over 1,000 yards last year in an offense that was struggling, right? With a game caller that really wasn't scripting for success. And now you have a full season under your belt where you actually have a quarterback that did, in my opinion, from what he's looked in the preseason, a complete 180 of what he looked like last year. So be the number 1. Yeah, be the number 1. Be one of the rising stars. Be the guy that everyone talks about, when they circle on that. Okay, what's the guy we have to stop offensively? That guy, Darnell Mooney, right? Be that guy for Justin Fields, right? Because he's going to look to go to you and get open. Do what you can. Be that number 1. Be that dude. So I want to see Darnell Mooney be that dude for Justin Fields. So be that number 1, baby.
Yeah, and especially week 1, you come out, you make a statement like that. The new number 2, the new dynamic duo in Chicago, Mooney to Fields. I mean, it would be really great to see week 1. Corey, it's time. A tradition unlike any other. We shall pick the final score of Bears versus 49ers in week 1. I'm going to go first if that's okay, because honestly, there are 10 underdogs that are playing at home in week 1 of the NFL season. And here's what I would say to Bears fans. I know we sound crazy, or maybe we're homers or whatever, but listen, the week 1 of the NFL year is the most 50-50 week in sports that I think is probably out there in any sport anywhere else. anything's up for grabs. The teams that are wildly favored end up either getting the crap kicked out of them or they lose. It goes up and down all the way. So I think the Bears got a great shot at winning week 1. I'm saying they win week 1. It's going to be a little ugly, but it will be thrilling. I'm saying 20-13, Chicago Bears win. A field goal fest and then offensive resiliency. Corey, they get that touchdown in the second half to make it that 20-13 game, and the Bears walk out week 1, and they're kind of a little bit of a story in town.
Yep, exactly. I'm pretty close to you. I had a 21-10 Bears.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. So I have them scoring 3 touchdowns, no field goals. I'm talking about capitalizing in the red zone. I think Trey Lance is really going to struggle. If we could stop that run, we could put the pressure on him and really make him feel uncomfortable, especially being at home. It's going to be a hostile environment. His first true start like that, this season against a hostile Soldier Field, I think we're going to be able to get after him. I say 21-10 Bears.
I love it, man. And look, that's the key, Bears fans. Keep in mind when you're listening to this is that, look, I think the 49ers are a playoff team. But go back just to last year when the Bengals came into town week 2, and the Bears absolutely destroyed them, because sometimes it just takes time for teams to gel, coalesce, and become the competitive playoff team that they are. I don't think the 49ers are ready with their new quarterback. I think this is a prime opportunity for the Chicago Bears to come out there and get a win week 1 and maybe head into Lambeau Field the following week looking to maybe go 2-0, Corey. So that's how I'm feeling. Yep. That's how you're feeling. Exactly. And, dude, I mean, we're starting. It's the start of it's going to be the start of a fun season. It's going to be exciting.
Yeah, no, it's going to be a great season. And I think such a low score for the 49ers just because them signing Jimmy Garoppolo tells you everything they need to know about Trey Lance. They don't believe in him right now, right? They were hearing it from up top. Hey, we need to play this guy. We need to play this guy. But Jimmy led us to this. No, we need to play this guy. We need to play this guy. Okay, well, let's give him a shot. And the whole preseason, he just struggled. So I wouldn't be surprised if he struggles early on and Jimmy Garoppolo is right back where he was last year. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And there's something to be said for that, right? Like Jimmy Garoppolo at times, people say this, that, and the other, but he won games. So in this league, what really matters, right? Winning games.
And Corey, I know we got to get out of here in just a second, man, but really quick, this just kind of came to mind for me a little bit. Can you just talk about like what's the first memory? What's the first image that comes into your mind? Rookie Corey Wootton stepping onto an NFL field for your first game. Can you just share what's the first thing that comes to your mind, man? Because there's going to be a lot of Chicago Bears rookies, undrafted and drafted, stepping on that field for the first time. When I say Corey Wootton rookie first game, what's the first thing that pops in your mind?
Man, that was like a dream come true, man. Your whole life, you work towards that, right? When you're a kid in Pop Warner football, you dream, starting, and then all of a sudden, you imagine yourself, as a kid, you're playing there, and then you're actually playing in that game. You're like, is this real life? Just atmosphere. There's nothing like it. There is nothing like an NFL game, especially your first one. It's unbelievable. So these guys are excited, I think they have the right coaching staff that is kind of like that Lovey type of mentality, right? Never get too high, never get too low, right? There's one bad play, flush it. Let's get to the next one, right? Because consistency, that's the biggest thing, right? Because you're going to have bad plays, you're going to have good plays. The more good plays you can have and the more you can limit the bad plays, the better you're going to be. So I feel like this team is going to be a very disciplined team. And people are going to say, oh, they're not pretty, they're not this, right? And that's fine. As long as you can be close at the end in the fourth quarter with a shot to win the game, hey, that's what you play for, right? And I think this Chicago Bears team is going to put themselves in a position to win a lot of games this year.
Today's episode of Believe in Bears was presented by BetOnline.ag. 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit when you use promo code BLEAV50, BLEAV50. And what better way to get that bonus than with week 1 of the NFL season right around the corner. Thank you so much for watching us on YouTube. Comment, question, subscribe, like below. Also, thank you for listening to us on SiriusXM. We're going to be with you all season long, providing you a preview and a post game of the Chicago Bears. We're thinking maybe 2 shows a week. And also, make sure you come check out Believe NFL Live on Sundays. I will be hosting that with a whole bunch of other co-hosts. Maybe I'll drag Corey in there at some point. We'll see. The man has many obligations, but tune in from 4 o'clock to 5 o'clock Pacific time. Adjust that for whatever, 6 o'clock Central Time, 7 o'clock Eastern Time. In between that game of the afternoon games and the night game, when you're like, what am I watching? I'm watching something random. Why aren't I talking about football? Come to Believe NFL Live on the YouTube channel. Make sure you check it out. Corey, man, really exciting time, my friend. I'm so happy for you, so happy for your success, so happy to be doing the show. Take us home on a great pod, and we'll be back when the Bears win Week 1, right?
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
1-0, baby. It's always good when Chicago is 1-0, and what is that? The Willis Tower. That's Bears colors afterward. Is that what it is? They light up in the city.
I think it's
Tower,
Willis, right?
Okay.
Or it's either that or the Prudential, one of the two.
Yeah, one of those. But yeah, we need that lit up with the Chicago Bears colors. Looking forward to another great season, man. I think Justin Fields has done a lot of great things. I think this organization has done a lot of great things. We thought we needed more, but it's looking like with the roster we have, they're putting everybody in a position to succeed. So I'm looking forward to it. I think Justin Fields is going to have a great season. I think the numbers aren't going to wow you at times, but you're going to look at that game and say, man, he performed well. He limited his turnovers. He made great decisions. He used his feet when he needed to. He connected on those huge third down situations, and he was smart about everything. David Montgomery, I think he's going to have an absolute beast of a season this year. Like I said, top 5. I think the defensive line is one of the strong suits on the team. I think defensive first, stop the run, be able to get after the passer. Starts Week 1 with Trey Lance. I think his immaturity and his lack of readiness is going to be shown in that first game. I think that Soldier Field is a tough place to play. So I'm looking forward to it, and we both predicted the Bears to win. So we'll definitely get into everything, in the post-game show, kind of breaking down everything that went well, the things they need to work on. But like we said, hopefully it's a big Bears win, and there's a lot to improve on, but a lot to take away positively.
Come on back for the Believe in Bears postgame, either Monday night or early Tuesday morning when we do a release. Be well, be safe, please be good to each other. And if I can quote Hulk Hogan, say your prayers, take your vitamins. It's officially time to bear down, baby. Let's go. Thanks.
Yeah, brother.